I am mining investor and editor of Resource Stock Digest, Gerardo Del Real, here with my partner, Mr. Nick Hodge, who's also an investor, of course, and the publisher of Daily Profit Cycle. This is the 273rd episode of our weekly therapy session that we like to call Investing in Bizarro World. We're going to talk markets. We're going to talk some of what we like in the market, some of what we're buying. We're going to talk private placements. I have what I think is going to be Patriot 2.0, possibly even better than Patriot 2.0. You all know the Patriot story, 16 cents to $17. It's trading around the $8 level, but a lot to get into. First and foremost, as always, Senor Hodge, how goes you, sir?
Doing really well, Gerardo. Fresh off a second grade animal museum exhibit, as it were. Thank you for delaying the recording of this podcast so I could attend that. In which my daughter made a little diorama of honeybees and presented. So it was good. We're doing well. How are you and the fam?
Fantastic. Feeling spoiled. We talked a bit off air and just feeling spoiled. But I have a joke first before we get into why I'm feeling spoiled. And for those of you that have kids around, this is the part where I use a little bit of profanity, just a little bit. So that's your warning there, so you don't get in trouble at work or with the kids or with the wife or with the hubby. So you ready for my joke?
Mm-hmm.
Roaring Kitty and Nancy Pelosi walk into a bar. What do they say? Fuck you, pay me. Dude, Roaring Kitty is up some $220 million on GameStop fucking stock and option. He's up 219% and is now worth over $586 million. And if you thought I was crazy for putting as much money and holding as much Patriot stock as I do and I did, I gotta admire the man's conviction. I don't know the money that's behind him. I don't know if it's all his money. I don't know what the end game is. But I won't lie. There was a moment where I thought about just throwing 30 to 40,000 on some GameStop stock and just riding along just to have some skin in the game. I mean, you gotta love the guy, right? And Nancy Pelosi, of course, is the world's best trader. She's up some, I think, 300 million over the last couple of years. So, yeah, no, I'm blown away. It's we talked about this, I think, last week or the week before, the last time you and I did the podcast together, and we talked about it. I think it's a sign of the times, right? And just the amount of liquidity out there, and despite that, we are still talking about potentially cutting, and you're starting to see the data come in now that the Fed, I think, is going to massage so that they have cover to start cutting, because the bottom line is, with the debt levels that we have, this debt is unsustainable at these high interest rates, right? But anyhow, I am amused by Roaring Kitty every day. His birthday is June the 8th. I made a note of that. So we got GameStop earnings on the 11th. And we have a live Roaring Kitty stream on June the 7th. So a lot of big catalysts. Tomorrow ought to be a hell of an interesting trading day. I might tune into the live stream just because he's an entertaining character. And again, kudos to the conviction. I tip my hat to the man. He believes what he says, and he puts his own money there. And much like this private placement that we're in the midst of participating in, I'm about to write the biggest check of my career. And again, I think it's an opportunity that's going to lends itself to have the potential to get on a Patriot-like run and maybe even a better run if Mother Nature cooperates, because of the fact that it's a copper gold rich story that has, a bull market underpinning it, as to where Patriot right now is doing everything perfectly and delivering and making new discoveries and has the best one of the best projects in the world right now. But has a lithium market that's pushing against it for the time being. That will turn, as it always does. It most definitely has bottomed, but it definitely hasn't broken back out yet. So, yeah, that was my joke.
That's funny. Both the Roaring Kitty and Miss Pelosi are great traders, and people try to emulate them both. So, newsletters and Twitter things and Discords have sprung up about, meme stocks, etc., Wall Street Silver and things, newsletters and trading programs have sprung up based on what Congress people are doing with their money. I was seeing, Dave Portnoy was talking the other week about, can someone point me to how to trade like Congress and how they do what they do? And, somebody replied right away, like, yep, there's an app for that, right? Like, it just sifts through the filings and alerts you. You can even link it to like one of their brokerage platforms like E-Trade or whatever it is, Robinhood or whatever, and it'll execute the trades for you. You just pick your congressman or your senator. and it trades like just like they do based on their filings, like I said. So side of the times for sure. People YOLOing for reasons that we've discussed, betting it all on black, knowing that the IRA or the 401k or the dividend reinvestments take much longer and they don't have that kind of time. So lots of things play into that. But yes, lots of liquidity. Stocks at all-time highs, the S&P for, talk about oil pulling back and elections in India, which I wouldn't mind talking about a little bit, and a little spike in volatility
Mexico.
to 15 at the end of May, new president in Mexico, a Jewish woman nonetheless, in a Catholic country was elected. And anyway, the S&P is just nothing but hit all-time highs on the back of still AI stocks, which are continuing to move the market in a big way. So NVIDIA continues to be 10 to 20% of the S&P on any given day. Bitcoin is back over 71,000. Copper got smacked down to 450, and commodities had a bit of a pullback, but that's what happens when you have the run
Healthy
that you had
correction.
in March and April and early May. So you sort of talked about a lot. So, and then, I am not one to YOLO or to, bet on GameStop or
I know, Nick, I know.
short-dated calls on meme stocks or things like that. I know you are. That's not to say I'm averse to risk. I mean, I buy penny mining stocks
Clearly.
as well, but I do it in a more organized way. But I get the temptation is what I'm saying. And so I'm just relating it to what we do. Like, we buy 10-cent stocks, 15-cent stocks, 6-cent stocks, whatever it is. So we do the risky stuff as well. But the private placements, I'm not sure if you want to talk more about that and copper or more macro. Happy to talk about whatever you're going to talk about.
No, look, I think at a time where the global economy is having trouble really getting, a running start, right? For copper to be at 445, 450 is absolutely an indicator of what's to come. And what's to come is simply much higher copper prices, right? There just isn't enough copper, and there won't be anytime soon, as in years, to meet the demand that's coming out of, China and India and the U.S. and all around the world. And so the bottom line is, I think copper companies that are sitting on robust assets and or make new discoveries, and those especially, are going to do phenomenally well in this cycle. Gold also happens to be right near all-time highs. We had a healthy correction in gold. It pulled back closer to 2,300 than 2,400. It's closed today at 2,376. Silver fell below 30 for a brief little bit, a day or two. It's back up some 4.5%, 31.27 the last I looked. Platinum's over 1,000. Palladium looks to be headed there. Oil is right around the $75 level, and this with the dollar index at 104. So all of those indicators that I pay attention to tell me that copper is going to have a bull market that runs at least the next 3 to 5 years. And I happen to think that the best bang for my buck, and I'm writing the biggest check of my career to back that. I'm not just saying it as a journalist or typewriting venture capitalist guy. I'm writing the biggest check of my career. I happen to think that I have the single best copper explorer as far as upside goes of the next 3 to 5 years. I know that's a big statement. I think it's Patriot 2.0 just with copper, gold, and silver. And I love the commodity mix. I love the team. It's not going to be one of those things where, in 2 months we go from 35 cents to $3. But I think, I think we double or triple here in the next 6 to 12 months. And then we get to drill in the real juicy stuff, which is being permitted right now. And then it's off to the races, and hopefully Wheeze is smart again when we get to that point. But really excited about the opportunity. We sent it to subscribers of our service that provides accredited investors access to our deal flow. That deal is completely taken down 50 to 60% by our group. Our subscribers have the option to participate in there. The largest copper company in the world is writing a check to retain its 9.9% position. I'll speculate that the majors are whispering about wanting to come in and joint venturing the entire land package that is 100% owned. I'll speculate that it would take them relinquishing 51%, meaning we control 51%, and a couple of $100 million commitment in order for that to happen. If not, we're going to drill the heck out of it ourselves. And so, when those type of whispers are going on and those kind of conversations are going on, and the company has a market cap of $45 million. That to me, again, is an indicator of the scale and the upside. It's one thing for Gerardo Del Real, non-finance degree, non-geologist, barely made it out of high school. Was a little troublemaker for a long time to say it. It's another thing for some of the world's biggest companies who have been on site, who have signed NDAs, to get in there, look at it, and then start whispering among themselves and asking the question, well, how much would it take to get 49% of all of this thing, right? And so a couple $100 million to a company like a Tech or a BHP or, any one of these companies, it's a drop in the bucket if we just make one discovery, right? And you get 49% of it. We have double-digit porphyries. I think at last count, it's almost 24 copper, gold, silver porphyries that are 100% owned. So I think it's going to be a hell of a run. I'm excited for it. I'll share a personal story with Patriot. I don't think I've shared this one before, but when we talk about YOLO, the reason I got into the 16-cent Patriot trade was because of the lithium, but it was really a gold project at the time. And my taxes were due. And I had two choices. I either defer paying my taxes and put it all into Patriot, or I pay my taxes and I just put a small amount into Patriot. And so I YOLO'd it. I said, fuck my taxes. They could wait, right? Let me stall the IRS for a couple of months. And then eventually when the letters started getting serious, before they put a lien on my multiple properties, let me go ahead and get on a payment plan, which is exactly what I did. And the rest is history. We had 144 meters of 1.6% copper, something stupid. And it changed my life financially and has provided for, some comforts and opportunities, for friends and family around me to really do some things and really have some fun and just kind of do some silly things, right? But that's how I ended up with such a big Patriot position. It was foregoing paying my taxes and then sticking it into Patriot. So that was my last YOLO moment. I won't have to do that with Hannon this go around. Luckily, thanks to Patriot, there's enough there to write a very outsized check for a good chunk of that financing. And then we do what we did with Patriot. I think we watch and then we let the team execute the business model and we wait for that first discovery and that second one. And the only question that I have is whether or not we do that as 100% owners of one or two projects drilled at a time, or if we say, hey, give us a couple $100 million, let us retain 51% interest, and let's go drill the hell out of everything right now as soon as it gets permitted. So those are good questions to be asking at this stage where it's a $40 million company, right?
I mean, it's very early stage, and I wasn't going to talk necessarily about the company or copper. You did a pretty good job talking about the macro. We know copper just went to $5, which is at all-time highs. I've been telling you it was bullish since February, and then I think it's going to continue to stay bullish. GDP growth in the U.S. and Europe looks okay. You're getting some Indian headlines, election headlines about Modi not having a concrete government, having to form a coalition for the first time. Yeah. I think, none of that's either here nor there, right? I think it's a long-term copper bull has begun. But I wanted to talk about newsletters and idiosyncratic investment opportunities and private placements and the rest of the industry, because it's something that the rest of the industry has tried and continues to try to do, going back to, sort of 2015 when the Jobs Act opened up private placements to allow not accredited investors in with the Reg A stuff and the crowdsourcing stuff or the crowdfunding stuff. And a lot of those deals didn't work, and they needed celebrities to try to sell them, right? So thinking back to promos that had like the Shark Tank people in them. There was promos with like Damian John and the guy with the H last name that I can't say that are on Shark Tank, and they were hiring celebrities. And flash forward 5-10 years to where we are now, and the consolidation the industry has gone through post-COVID, post-stimulus checks, post-meme stock and retail investment boom. The laying off of hundreds at Agora, other big financial investment firms, struggling for growth. Everybody's saying the same thing. It's a circle jerk echo chamber. There's no new ideas. The editors or the gurus are stiffs, former Wall Street guys. This and that, right? You got to get better at storytelling. You've got to be authentic. I hear all this stuff, right? I watch all the industry podcasts and I see people saying the same thing. And then I look at the stuff that we're doing and I'm wondering how any of that is so different. And even some of the citing of good things on that podcast were citing of things that I've formerly done in my career, right? About building communities and speaking to audiences, right? So we do that. It is authentic. You're talking about writing a huge check and then the results that you got from Patriot. And I was in Patriot as well. I mean, how much more authentic does it get than making millions of dollars by writing checks into private placements that you also offered to subscribers on the same terms? I mean, how more authentic does it get than going to private placements and setting boots on the ground in many of these projects and speaking at conferences, right? How much more interesting does it get than former cocaine fields in Peru that are now going to be performing or providing the battery minerals of the 21st century that are going into Teslas and Apple cell phones, right? So when you talk about lamenting the state of the industry and I could tell you, what you're lamenting. Yeah, like your editors do suck and your ideas do suck. And, not to say that sales are great across the board, right? Like, the industry is struggling. And the VSL format is due for a reinvention and everyone's sort of looking for that. But there are people out there who are having good results on the investment side and therefore continue to attract an audience and generate newsletter sales and, get good testimonials and do it authentically and in a real way while other people, need to chase trends, so, whatever that is, right? So anyway, just something I was thinking about when you were talking there, because everything that I hear people wanting, right? Editors that go to projects, editors that are interesting, editors that can speak to an audience, right?
That
editors
make money off of their investments, like real money.
Right.
Not to brag, but you got to have skin in the game, folks.
Well, that's it. It's like, how much do you want to brag, right? Like we were talking about your lazy river that's just getting finished before we started recording. Your, my pool where we'll have a pool party for the end of school next week, or whatever it is. Like, how much do you want to brag, and how interesting do you be? What do you want to do? How interesting do you want to be? Like, what do you want to talk about? So, I mean, for me, talking about those investments is interesting, right? Like, I literally. Talking about private placements and subscription documents and cocaine fields, I just printed out the documents and I'll send them in. So anyway, we talked for an hour this week about private placements and this private placement in particular that we're writing checks into. It's already out to our group of accredited investors. They're already writing in with their interest, wanting to participate. And we'll make sure you can see that replay because that private placement will be open for the next couple of weeks. But sorry, I dropped my pen. And you'll be actually going to this project later this year. We were talking about that as well. So, going to South America, braving the jungles and whatever they have down there, snakes and spiders, and I don't think any cocaine traffickers anymore. That's why we're investing in the project. But talk about interesting. Oh, and I guess the other thing is, they're talking about hiring people to do this, right? Like, it's a podcast about, how to have better copywriting ideas and sell newsletters. And the one guy's talking about hiring Chris Rowe and producing like Netflix style documentaries. It's like, okay, bud, like, the average newsletter in the world doesn't have that sort of promotional budget, right? And if that's what it takes to sell a newsletter at scale, then something else is wrong, right? If you need to like go out and hire a celebrity. So anyway, the industry's got some other things to figure out, and you'll need to get some better editors. And if you want good ideas and real investments, or even if you just want to invest alongside us, you can check out our stuff.
You mentioned the lazy river, so now I feel compelled to explain this because I know that's going to sound crazy to the average person, because it's kind of crazy to me. Like, we're wrapping it up and we're finishing it today, tomorrow, and I was walking it with my wife yesterday and just feeling just thankful and grateful to be in a position where this started as a joke. I could make a joke. And the joke was, I want to float to work every morning, right? And so we have our country home, and we're moving there once our youngest gets into whichever university he goes to. So they'll stay at the main house, and we'll move 20 minutes away to our home, 20 minutes away. And so I said, well, when we get here, I want to be able to float to work every day. I want to wake up, I want to jump in a lazy river, and I want to float. And so initially, the thought was I could go ahead and build a river from the house to a cabin that we had planned. And again, all made possible by investments the last couple of years, thankfully, right? Knock on wood. And, I'm grateful for it. But it was too far, and we would have had to cut down too many trees for the cabin. So we decided we'll build a guest house with a deck that comes out where you could just walk straight from the deck and jump straight into the river. And that's where my office would be, hence achieving my goal of being able to float to work every morning, right? And the more I joked about this, the more I thought, well, you know what? Life is short. Like, fuck it. Why not? Why not? So I hired a engineer and an architect, and then they went down there and tested the soil, all limestone underneath. It was perfect foundation. And they did a design for me. And I looked at the wife and she goes, "You're crazy." I said, "I know, but it'll be fun. And nobody's going to remember the money that was spent. The memories we'll make is what I think everybody hopefully takes away." So here we are. It took, we started this in October, at the end of October, and here we are in June. And it's ready to go. So maybe I'll put a picture up here with the podcast of my crazy, lazy river. But again, thankful and grateful. And again, I highlight that to say, all of that is from investments, right? The publishing's fine. Resource Stock Digest, great businesses. Both businesses are doing well. But the bulk of the money that comes in, be absolutely clear, folks, it isn't from selling newsletters or doing interviews with people. It is from the checks that we write. This particular private placement opportunity we're offering to subscribers of our service. By the time I'm done writing this check, I'll have almost $1 million personally, Canadian, put into the deal. I wrote a prior check that was a big-ish check. This one's going to be twice that amount. And again, you really got to believe in what you're doing to write a check that big, because that's real money. And for a lot of people, that's more money than they'll ever see. So thankful to be able to do it. Speaks volumes to the opportunity and what I think it's going to be. And I am looking forward to being able to keep y'all updated on how that's going as time progresses. And I think it's going to be a fun, profitable ride.
I don't have a lazy river, but I do.
Oh, you got a pond and you have a big ass bowl and a pickle. I know what you have, Nick. Okay, humble on me now.
I was going to say I have the second home. That's where I work. I'm in my office here, and you don't take out loans for lazy rivers and pools, is what I was going to say. You sell stock to do that, and then we talk about our tax bills, and it's a different way of life. Is sort of what I was going to say, and some people don't understand, and you don't want to be braggadocious on the one hand, and you want to try to convey on the other hand, right? So I was going to give you a couple of minutes. You talked about your lazy river, and we've been talking recently about financing and credit, and so I wouldn't pay cash for this house, so I'm refinancing it now, right? Rates have come down a little bit, and anyway, I'm content to refinance it now. So I've been working on that, and you start talking to lenders, and I forget. I worked W-2 so long that I haven't and when I bought my house, I was a W-2 employee, so I hadn't really gone through the rigmarole of trying to secure credit as a business owner, despite having a pretty damn good credit score and assets, et cetera. So, but I haven't gone through like sending them the statements and this and that. And so that, they start asking you, well, send me your banking statement. And I have to say, like, which one do you want? And they have to say, well, send me your brokerage statement. And I have to say the thing, like, well, which one do you want? And then they have to like piecemeal them all together. And in their underwriting, put it in a box and check the thing mines. Like, they just don't understand, can't comprehend, right? Or it's like, wait, how many businesses do you own? Where does the revenue come from? How much stock sales did you have in 2023? And it's like they try to figure it all out, right? And you can just sort of see, like, they don't see this all the time, and it's just like uncommon. And it's like, well, I almost get defensive. It's like, well, sorry, I forged my own path, and I'm selling stock, and I've got these things or whatever. And it's like, anyway. And so I point back to why we do what we do, right? Because we navigate that path. Like, we figure that out. Like, the other thing I was going to tell you was financial planners. You know me, right? So I've talked about advisors over the years, and why that, that doesn't, behoove you to give them your assets, especially if they're, managing them, right? That's that definite no. You can just buy an index fund and not pay them the percent that they would take for doing the same thing. But planners are different, right? You pay them a fee, here's $2,000, look at my shit and tell me I'm doing good or what not doing good or whatever. And it's, just as a fail-safe, sometimes I do that, or at least I have conversations with them that they offer for free. And sometimes I do it just for market research, just to see what's going on out there. And anyway, I'm a weird guy. I like
see information. What dumb shit they want to put you in, and better not to.
So I've done a couple recently because, and after the initial conversations, both of them told me that basically I knew more than them and they couldn't help me. like after I got done telling them like how I invest, what I do, like how I've set up my retirement accounts, businesses, backdoor Roths, 529s, et cetera, they're like, both of them said they couldn't help me. And so when I again, about being braggadocious, like I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
But like if you're looking to manage your own money and you want to follow people who do it, whether it's retirement accounts, you know, with me and foundational profits and IRAs and ETFs and stuff like that, great. If it's private placements, like we're offering now, you're a high net worth individual that can write a $10 or $20 or $50,000 check into speculative investments, and you want to layer that into what you do, that's great as well. There's different layers to everything. We didn't have a lazy river 10 years ago, right? I didn't have a pond 10 years ago, but once we had success investing the way we were investing, and then parlay that into private placements is when things sort of really took off. So anyway, all that to say, if you want radical transparency into what we're actually buying, it doesn't get more radically transparent than us writing large checks into the companies that we're presenting to you at the same time on the same terms. So check out that private placement webinar. It'll be up likely for the balance of the month, though I know the placement is already oversubscribed. And again, that's what we provide, you know, the ability to get into a private placement that's otherwise already spoken for.
I like it. I think it's worth noting, right? Because this is important. I know to both Nick and I, both of us come from very humble beginnings. We worked our way up the system and through the system, and despite the system. I want to make sure that everybody's clear that neither one of us, you know, had family members giving us $1 million head start or giving, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it is important to note that we worked our ass off to get into the position that we're in. And you know, take a lot of pride in that. And I think I speak for Nick and myself when I say that. I think we've also, you know, been able to do as hopefully as much as we can to help others and provide opportunity and do good with it, because there is a responsibility when you have the good fortune to put yourself in a certain situation to give back. And I'd like to think we both put a lot of effort into that. So that's important to me.
It's an important point for sure. It's an important point, you know, just because it's an important point, but it's an important point because, we weren't given a head start. No one gave us capital to get started. When I first started in the financial publishing industry, my first paycheck failed to materialize, and I had to ask my parents for money, right, to get bread and water for the week. So anyway, that's how it goes. But it also speaks to the backstory. And, you know, when you again, back to the industry, right, you're looking for an editor that's got a backstory and bootstrapped himself or whatever it is. Like, yeah, man, from having to call my parents and that first paycheck didn't show up in 2007 to, you know, whatever it is now in 2024 is a fairly short time span to accumulate those assets and do what we've done. So if you want to see some of that, again, the private placement webinar would be a great place to start. It's free. And people asked us real questions, so it wasn't a promotional type thing. This isn't like a fake live thing. It was actually it was actually live, and again, radically authentic and transparent. So enough about that. What else do we talk about?
Let's talk about another company that's made us a lot of money and made our subscribers a lot of money and made friends and family a lot of money. And that's one that's onto a hell of a discovery, and one that provides me another clear indicator of how high-grade discoveries are being rewarded in this market, right? And that's Bravo Mining, folks. We've been telling you for the last month or two that Bravo Mining was stupid cheap just based on its PGM asset, right? We've been telling you that there was twice as much as the resource indicates because they've doubled the depth and then they keep finding mineralization and blah, blah, blah. Nobody cared. Bottom line is platinum pulled back, palladium pulled back, rhodium pulled back, and people quit caring. They weren't doing the best job marketing the story to the retail investor. And so the stock sold off. It sold off from a high of 524 to a 52-week low of 147. You know how much it's up here in the past month? 108%. Past 3 months, 150%. The bulk of that coming from the new discovery of a high-grade IOCG style massive sulfide copper gold discovery at Luanga. It's kilometers away, a kilometer away from the main deposit. Seems to be completely unrelated. It's a brand new discovery. They hit 11.48 meters of 14.3%. This was on a test of an anomaly. It was the first one. They obviously prioritized well and decided there's going to be an order on the drilling of these things. But this thing was a kilometer away. They hit on the very first one. There's assays pending on the second one. They already know visually that there's some more of that rich looking high grade stuff. And it looks like we have another massive, massive discovery on our hands. It's early, it's one hole, but you don't get 11.48 meters of 14.3% and 3.3 grams per ton gold just out of the blue and in a one-off, and definitely not on an IOCG style massive sulfide copper gold deposit. So the stock's at 410. This is your freebie for the day. The stock is going higher. I don't care how much it's gone up in the past month. The stock is moving higher, folks. And I think we likely get assays. It'll be this week by the time you all listen to this. I think we likely get assays. If not this week, definitely next week on that other hole. And they're going to keep drilling these things. They have, I think, 18 of these anomalies, if I'm not mistaken? Let me go through the release here.
The numbers are weird because they identified some and then they refined them. And
there you go.
Anyway, I tried to get go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good. I had 17 priority EM anomalies that a HeliTem survey identified, and they narrowed that list down to 11 high priority conductors. I want to add, new discovery could be huge, but they're still chasing the feeder zones of the PGM deposit, right? Like they've got sniffs of that. So you got the potential here for two massive high-grade discoveries running concurrently in a stock. And this is, we talked about share structure the last time you and I were on together, Nick. This is where share structure matters. The reason the stock dropped so quickly is because there weren't any buyers and there were a few sellers that were bored with the story. The reason there wasn't much stock volume at all was because the chairman owns over 50%, the chairman and the insiders. That's skin in the game, folks. They own over 50% of it. So now when people are rushing to buy in, they're cashed up. They don't need to finance. They own over 50% of the stock. It's hard to find enough stock to make a difference, and bet your ass off that funds want in on private land, beautiful topography, 100% private owned, multiple high-grade discoveries running concurrently with an already massive tier 1 deposit. It's a project of critical significance from the Brazilian government. It's been designated that, meaning it's got all the support. And oh, by the way, the chairman is not only a geologist, but one of the top business mining lawyers in all of Brazil. It's as good as it gets. It's why we wrote a check at 64 cents, Nick. Is that what it was? 64 cents Canadian.
It was pre-IPO. It was done in US 50 cents. But yeah, I mean, at the time, 64 cents Canadian. Yep.
Yep. So again, I mean, this is where, the Dumb River, Gerardo's Dumb River and Nick's Pond to go hunting. And this is where the stuff materializes, folks. We have the kind of market. These last couple of years have been some of the toughest in the resource space, folks. And we've been able to deliver results, and we're proud of those results. Not all wins. There's losses, like there's always losses. But, the big ones far outweigh the losses. And I'm excited for what we get to do in this market, because this is not a bear market anymore. We have a massive commodity super cycle that is unfolding before our eyes, and there is going to be a lot of money to be made.
And the sunfish have been spawning. It's not just for hunting. It's the bass have been getting big as well. So the kids enjoy catching those. I talked about Bravo a fair amount last week because you weren't here because you were on a trip, which is likely also because of private placement money, just to pound on the point a little bit more, right? So what else was I going to say? I mean, that's it. 50 cents or 64 cents Canadian to $5 is pretty good. There's other IOCG deposits in Brazil. It's, the right address, as they say. And a lot of results left on the PGM deposit itself, as you said, which they're still following up on. The company is cashed up. It's got people talking, I guess, is the other thing. Like some discoveries and some bulls get the industry talking, right? The Great Bears, Snow Lines, stuff like that, right? Newfound. And people have been chatting, right? Like, Joe Mazumdar was writing about how he did his PhD thesis on IOCGs and was comparing it to that, right? Like, I know another old school and then well-respected newsletter writer was making phone calls wanting to go potentially visit the project in Brazil because he thinks it's the next Diamond Fields, for example. And so Diamond
I had
Fields
two
is
people
another
tell me this now. Yeah.
Good example, I would say. And so I was talking to the guys over at Corlin Economics the other day, who I talk to once a month, and I mentioned Bravo to them a couple of times. And when I mentioned it this week, they were saying, "Oh yeah," so a couple of other people have mentioned that to me. And then when I look at the chat boards, I see them go from quiet to IOCG chatter, right? So it's just interesting, and it's good to see it develop, and a lot more news to come. And again, finance that privately first. So if you're looking for niche investments, early stage stuff, I mean, that's precisely what this is. And so, yeah, it might not. I guess the last thing I was going to say is, you might not have celebrities tweeting about it. There might not be some, cool Twitter account posting memes about copper early stage projects in Latin America, right? So you don't have that sort of zeitgeist and clickbait and that sort of interest. But at the same time, it's different, it's niche, it's exclusive, and in that respect, it's paid off for us because we've come across many deals that are niche and exclusive and off the beaten path or contrarian. So that's it. I feel like I'm starting to get long in the tooth. What else you got?
I want to tell you about the time I shared a room with Selma Hayek. You mentioned celebrities. That's where my head goes. Would you like to hear that story? So I'm in Mexico when Mexico was safer, and my state wasn't burning and dangerous, and that's a whole other thing. But so I get to the hotel, right? I'm on a site visit. I'm looking at a silver project, a predominantly silver project in Durango, Mexico. Beautiful place, by the way. And I get to the hotel, and I get the room, and the gentleman up front goes, "Selma Hayek was just in that room yesterday. She just checked out." So I called my wife immediately. I said, "Babe, I'm sharing a fucking room with Selma Hayek." She said, "What?" She knows I love you some Selma Hayek, right? She goes, "You what?" The room? Oh, no. I was saging it, the whole thing, right? I wanted all the vibes. And she starts laughing because she knows my sense of humor. And so that's the time I shared a room with Selma Hayek, folks.
That's funny. I'm old enough to remember a time you went to Durango, Mexico, or Durango, Colorado instead of Durango, Mexico.
That was that trip. That was that trip. It's a whole other story. Yeah, you guys want to humble? I told you about my Patriot story, right? Let me be really, really humble. So I'm new to the newsletter game. I had been consulting privately for a mentor of mine, and he was basically showing me the ropes, how to vet deals, how to analyze them, break them down, the whole thing. I did that for about 8 years. And then Mr. Hodge was kind enough to give me a publishing deal to write a couple of newsletters at a group where he was running a division that he founded. And so I'm a new newsletter writer. I really don't know the ropes. I haven't done site visits, and so it's my very first site visit. And my wife was a director at a hospital at the time. 3 young kids. I'm running them to 3 different schools, picking them up to 3 different schools. She's working 12-hour days. We're up and at it and just trying to get ahead and figure life out, right? And so in my effort to alleviate some of her stress, because she was busy with work, I booked my own ticket. And so I booked my ticket to Durango. I get my stuff. I get up in the morning. I get on the plane. I put on my headphones. I'm doing my notes. I'm preparing for my meeting. CEO is going to pick me up. I land. Says, "Welcome to San Ignacio Airport." Checks, right? Flight was about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. That checks, right? I look around, and looks just like Durango, Mexico, right? I've been to Durango before. I go to get my bag, and I'm like, "Where the fuck is the customs people at? Like, have they changed the process?" I hadn't been to Mexico in a few months. And then I look at the brochures and the billboards, and everything's in English. And it says, "Welcome to Durango, Colorado."
No, wait, huh?
I flew to Durango, Colorado, guys. I had to stay at a smoky-ass casino all night. And I had to call the CEO of the company, and it was hilarious. I said, "Tom," "It's Gerardo. I'm in Durango." He's like, "Where are you?" "We're here." I said, "I'm in fucking Durango, Colorado, man. I booked the wrong ticket to the wrong place and didn't realize it till I got here." He let out the biggest laugh. It was absolutely hilarious. A humbling experience, and that's how we got started in the newsletter business.
That's funny. Yeah, 8 years ago or something, 7 years ago. That's how it goes. It's funny.
All right, let's get back to it. Let's get back to it. Let's get to the markets. What do you see in the gold stage? We talk gold, silver, copper. I think we agree. And charts look great. Consolidations are healthy. Tell me about uranium. What are your thoughts there? People are bored with uranium equities right now. Spot price is at 90. If that's the new floor, it's a great spot price, right?
Yeah, it's been moving a little bit. So sometimes it moves by 15 or 25 cents, the spot price. I've seen $1 and $2 moves lately. Personally, I thought the consolidation was over. People had been getting bored with it because that consolidation has lasted several months. I thought a week ago it was ready to break out to the upside. Uranium ticked back up over $90. The URA ETF ticked up higher. I think $30 is the level to watch there, and that looked really good. And then this week, as we're recording this, it would be last week when you hear it. Commodities had that little bit of a pullback, right? As I said, copper tried to break 5 and bounced down to 450. But to answer your question, I think it has to do with oil. I think it has to do with oil and energy because oil got punished more. There was OPEC meetings where there was some uncertainty whether or not they were going to extend the production cuts. There's been some uncertainty around the growth in India and China. And so I think it's getting lumped in with the energy complex because oil technically turned bearish. It came down below, I think, $73 or $72. Fuck, I saw diesel for under $4 the other day for the first time in a long time. So anyway, oil prices are softening, and I think that's what's happened to uranium. Nonetheless, I believe it is held trend, and the consolidation is going to take longer, which is why people are getting bullish. But I too was, whatever, not upset or sad or whatever, but I thought it was about to break back out, and it just now it's taking longer. So I think that's the uranium on upbeat, but still bullish. Lots of good fundamentals, et cetera, all that good stuff. So even more actually, because now the AI companies are starting to talk about needing nuclear reactors. I think Biden said this week he was going to try to leverage basically the White House, the administration, to pull together tech and data companies so they could buy more SMRs, small modular reactors, together to lower the overall cost. So all that is still playing out. So good for uranium. But just to put a cap on that. Yeah, just to put a cap on that. So that's, everybody's sort of worried this week about commodities, copper, oh my God, and yada, 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 whatever it is, right? So I think we're just looking for the next narrative, right? Like the Indian election will wrap up. People are waiting for non-farm payrolls. They'll drop by the time you see this. We'll see what they say. But, we're getting back to that where job growth overstated last year. We're going to stagflation, talking about rate cuts. So the market is searching for its next narrative, but the next narrative is just higher for longer inflation and rates and commodity prices. So it's just a healthy pullback.
I like it. That's the opportunity in commodity super cycles, folks. For those of you that are new to this, you buy the dips, right? You absolutely buy the dips. And whether it happens in copper or gold or silver, pick your commodity, you have to buy the dips, take advantage of it. You should have a list of names that you like, that maybe you're waiting to buy. And when you get that pullback, pull the trigger on those. And, I have a friend that I was telling him a month and a half ago, you should have some Bravo in your portfolio. And he goes, so he put his order in and he didn't want to pay the extra 2 pennies. So it never filled. And then they make the discovery.
I'm guilty of that sometimes.
And it goes from 155 to 410, probably headed to $6-7 in really short order, folks. And so don't mind the pennies. I always say, if hopefully I don't remember what I paid for it, because if it works the way I think it's going to work, I won't care, right?
No, I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. It's because I look at the chart and I want that level and it won't fill, and now I'm missing out. It is what it is. But anyway, no complaint, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. We're big boys and big girls. That's all I got. I wanted to talk Bravo. I definitely am excited for Patriot. I want to see more assays from that new high-grade zone at CV13. It's important to note that that zone will be included in the maiden resource estimate that I believe is due in August. Those type of hits with that type of grade adds tonnage really, really quick. And depending on how big this specific zone is, that could turn into a very, very material resource with a whole heck of a lot of upside. And from what I understand, they're going to be drilling 200-meter aggressive step outs there. That's what I want to see at this point, right? The infill drilling was necessary for the maiden resource estimate on CV5, or for the updated estimate, I should say, to get it into the higher confidence category. Completely understand that. But you're damn right, as a shareholder, I want to see step out holes and exploration holes, and I want to uncover, the potential scale of what else is there, because I still think we've just scratched the surface, and I absolutely believe we end up with, some 250 to 350 million tons there, at the least, of economic grade lithium at a time like North American critical metal supply chains are becoming more and more supported by governments here and abroad. So that's what I'm watching this week. Anything on your end, Nick?
No, lithium market looks like it's continuing to improve. I was just looking at the industry ETF. Yeah, it's making higher highs since February, and it's not a barn burner, but it is making higher highs, and it's moving up and to the right. So
I like it.
It's with the rest of the commodity space as well. Nothing else. Check out the private placement webinar. Let us know if you have questions, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, folks. Enjoy the summer weather. Enjoy, if you watch baseball, enjoy baseball and go Cubs. Everybody knows that we stay representing around here. I am Gerardo Del Real along with Mr. Nick Hodge. This was the 273rd episode of our weekly therapy session that we call Investing in Bizarro World. Don't forget to go to dailyprofitcycle.com/subscribe for all my ranting, raving, Selma Hayek jokes, stories, anecdotes, and Mr. Hodge's insight, along with the insight of our talented group of editors. Have a good one, folks.
See ya.
Hey there, you independent-minded investor. If you like this video, make sure to tell us so by clicking the like button below. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss another one. And share it with everyone you know on social media. You can also click the link in the description below to check out more information-packed videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.